Dav Kuf Chaf Amud Aleph will begin Dav Kuf Yutes Amud Beis, 4 lines from the bottom. Continuing on with the Sibas for the Churban of Yerushalayim, the reasons that the Churban, that Yerushalayim was destroyed. The reason for the Churban was that honest, trustworthy people disappeared from Yerushalayim. Shenemer, it says, search in the open places of Yerushalayim to know and see in the streets. Look and see if you'll find a trustworthy person, a person who does mishpat, who looks and searches for the truth, and then I'll forgive them. I'll forgive Yerushalayim. You're telling me that there was no trustworthy, honest people. There were no honest people in Yerushalayim. Even at the time of the downfall of Yerushalayim, still the trustworthy, honest people, truthful people didn't disappear from there. Shenemar, it says, it says in that time, before the Churban, that one person will grab hold of another and say to him, he'll grab hold of him and say, you have clothing, you have a simla, you should be a ruler for us. You should be our leader, a ruler, because you have a simla, you have a garment. What does this mean? What does it mean to say with that? You have divrei Torah, that things that people cover themselves up. Why is it called a simla? Because a simla is what you cover yourself with. So too, divrei Torah, you have something, you have divrei Torah, things that people don't have. When they are asked a shayla, they're asked a question, they don't know the answer. They don't have divrei Torah, so they pretend like they don't hear. So they cover themselves up. But you, so one will go to the other, you're a Talmud Chacham. You should be a kotzon, you should be a ruler for us. And you have, under your hand, you have with you this stumbling block. What is the machshela? Machshela is referring to divrei Torah. You have something which other people don't have. You have something, you have Torah. You have Torah, which is something that people can't be proficient in Torah unless they make mistakes. They ask shaylas, they make mistakes, they clarify. But you're a Talmud Chacham. So you should be a kotzon, you should be a leader for us. Kotzon tiyalon. Be a leader, be a manik for us. Yisa, but what does he answer? What does his friend answer? He says, Yisa he says, I will not be a ruler. Yisa makes a shua. He says, no, I will not be your manik. And Yisa loshen shua. Yisa is a loshen shua. V'cheinu omer le'sisa as Shem Hashem. Le'sisa is a loshen shua. Lo yeh chayvesh, I will not be a ruler. Lo yeh mechayvshe atzma veis hamedrash. Mean to say, no, you're telling me I'm a Talmud Chacham and therefore I should be your manig. No, I wasn't the person who was a masmid who locked himself up and closed himself up in the base of medrash. Uvesi ein lechem vein simla, and in my house there's no bread, there's no clothing. Shem bari loy mikra. I'm not, he says, I'm not a Talmud Chacham. I don't have Mishnah. I don't have Mikra, Mishnah, Gemara. So, Lefi the Poshet Pshat, the one friend was saying to the other, you have food, you have clothing, you should be a leader. But the Gemara Dashna, what he meant to say is that you are a Talmud Chacham, and therefore you should be a kotzon, you should be a leader for us. And he answered back, no, I'm not. So you see that there was honesty. He was honest. He was maida. That he wasn't a Talmud Chacham. What do you see from here? That the people were honest. Maybe over there was no choice. Meaning if he had to tell the truth, because otherwise they'd ask him shaylas and he wouldn't know, so it would be revealed. So therefore he told the truth. But otherwise, who said that people were honest? Mar said, no, still, he didn't have to say, that he didn't learn, that he was not a Talmud. He could have said that he forgot. He forgot the my loyeh chayvish. What did it mean that he wasn't a masmid? He never learned. So you see that he was honest. He said no, that he was not a masmid. He wasn't chayvish himself on the base of marriage. So see that people were honest. Like Kash, the Gemara says it's not a kasha, can be divrei Torah, can be masav matan. There's a difference in divrei Torah or in business, where we say that they weren't honest people. We mean in business. Divrei Torah, they were, but not in business, and that was the reason for the Churban. Zok to Mishnah, Matzilin Sal Maliki Chorus. You can bring a basket full of loaves of bread. Now, even though we learned previously that you can only be saved from the fire, the food that is needed for Mazan Shalosh Sudas that you need for the 3 meals for the Shabbos, but if it's one basket, we don't tell them that you have to remove the loaves of bread. If it's one basket, even if it has many loaves of bread in it, even more than what's needed for Shabbos, but it's one act of saving, it's one basket, he can remove it. Even though there's 100 sudas worth in that basket, he can still save it. The igula dvela, and if it's one igula dvela, one round cake of figs, he can save it, even though it's huge, but it's only one, so he can save it even though it has more than what is needed for shalosh sudas. And a barrel of wine, even though it has more wine than he needs for the shalosh sudas. And he can tell other people that you can also go save, meaning he can only save for himself, but he can tell other people, you go ahead and save from it. Now he can say that you can go save from it. Now there is a discussion in the Rishonim when he says to the others that you can go save. Are they limited as he is limited, or perhaps for other people there's no limitation? For him there's a limitation because we're afraid that on a ball might come to put out the fire. But other people, it's not theirs, and they're only zoiche, as we'll see from hefker. Perhaps not. So the Ran has it sad to say that for other people there's no limitation. So if these people are smart, they'll make a cheshbon with him after Shabbos to get paid. So we'll see, the more we'll discuss this. What does this mean? The more we'll discuss this in detail. To where can these items be saved? To a chotzer, or a courtyard that has an eruv. That even though we allow you to save it, but only to a chotzer that has an eruv. If it doesn't have an eruv, it's not permitted, it's hoser. Meaning, even though there's an eruv, so there's no problem in carrying it to it, still there's a limitation, because if we don't limit it on a bal mamon, you might put out the fire. But what we do permit, what was mutter over, is only to a chotzer amur reves. But he says even if there's no eruv, it's also mutter. It's also mutter even if there's no eruv. They were muttered for that as well. And from there, he can also take the utensils, the kalim that he needs for his Shabbos meals. And he wears all the clothing that he can wear. He can wear one on top of the other. He can wear as much clothing as he can, and he can wear it and take it out. And he can wrap himself with as many clothing, as many garments as he can. So he can wrap himself and carry him out with all of these clothing, and there's no limitation to it. There's no limitation to what he can put for there, to what he can carry out. That now the machlokes and the rishonim over here, the machlokes and rishonim, if just like we learned from before that there is the chacham say it's only to chotzer mu'reves, do we say over here as well in the clothing that we say over here that is also only to a chotzer mu'reves, or do we say over here that he can even play to a place where there's no eruv? Then over here we say we don't have that limitation. What would be the chiluk? Why should we say that by the food the chacham say it's only to a place, a chotzer, where it has an eruv? What would be the tzad to say, those rishonim that say over here that it would be even in a place where there's no eruv? Because from the fact that he is wearing it and not carrying it, that itself is a heker, and he'll have a heker and therefore not come to carry it out until the Rishus Harabim. That will serve as a reminder. So that is a machlokes in the Rishonim, and the Rambam is mashma that it's the same as food. The other Rishonim mashma not that way. It's brought down in the Mordechai and the Ramah. So that's the discussion of the clothing. Rav Yosi says no. Here also Shemon Esrei Kelim. He is only allowed 18. There is a limitation in the clothing as well. He's only allowed 18 garments. We'll see in the Gemara what these garments are. Now, according to the Chachamim, so this is going back on the Chachamim. The Chachamim saying that he can wear as many items of clothing as he wants. He goes back into the fire and he puts on other clothing and takes it out. Rav Yosi says there's a limitation. But the Tanakama says he can wear as many as he wants. He can go back and wear other ones. And he can wear other ones as well. Rav Yosi says there's a limitation. There's a discussion in the Rishonim here as well that why can he not wear a limited amount of clothing? So some say because that an unlimited amount of clothing is not derech malbush. It's not a way of clothing. It's not the way of normally wearing clothing. Therefore, it's not considered wearing. It's considered carrying. It's considered carrying. Others say is that if we allow an unlimited amount, then we're afraid that he'll put out the fire, and he'll come and put out the fire if he does it in that way. Nafkamina would be if he bore it out into the Rishus Rabbim, would be Chai V'chatas, would that be considered carrying or not? So Rav Yosi says Shemon Esrei Kelim, but Tanakama says V'chayz V'loi V'shemaitzi, he can now go back and put on other clothing. And he says other people come and save it with me. We'll see in the Gemara why over here does it say Hatzilu imi with me, and by the food it says Hatzilu lachem. We learned previously in the Mishnah that he can only save amount of food that he needs for 3 sudas for the 3 meals, and here he says, with Tana says, that he can save the basket of kikoros of the loaves even for 100 sudas. There's a difference if he's coming to save it or if he's coming to now pile it in and coming to gather it together. If he wants to save a basket, so it's one act of carrying it out. It's a basket. If it has even 100 loaves of bread, it's mutter because it's one act of carrying it out. Then it's mutter. But if he wants to bundle it up, if he wants to bundle it up, so he takes a box and he wants to take other loaves of bread and put it into the box, or other baskets and put it into the box. There, he's now not doing one act. He's taking different items and he's putting it in the couple. He's gathering it together. There, it's also. Where do we say that he has only sholosh sudas with if he taking separate items? Separate items, you can take separate acts of carrying out only enough you need for sholosh sudas. But if it's not separate acts of taking it out, so you have one box that's full of loaves of bread, you can take the entire box. It's one act of carrying, even though it has more than sholosh sudas. Rav Amar, he says in both cases, bola kapel. And how do we answer? It makes a difference. If it's the same chotzer, then we don't limit it. It's a chotzer acheres. That's the previous Mishnah where there was a limitation. Boy, Rav Huna Braid of Yeshua asked the following shaila. Let's say he spread out a cloak, a blanket, and then he took food and he put it into it and he poured it into it, and then he took some more food and he put it into it, and now he's wraps it up all together. He has one big bundle. Now he's only taking out one bundle. Do we say it's like one box full of loaves of bread? Or do we say, since he did separate acts to take a box and empty it onto the blanket, and take another one, empty it back, and then he bundled it all together, do we consider it like separate acts, and do we consider bola ala kapel? Kibola hatzel dami, do we consider this bola hatzel? Because do we say, since at the time that he's taking it out, it's only one act, or do we say that since he does separate actions to empty each basket onto the talus, do we consider it bola kapel? He's gathering up separate items, and it should be also. So the more answers Medama Rava Ate Rav Shizvila Rav Chisda V'Darsh. Since Rava said that Rav Shizda misled Rav Chisda, and he darshaned in his falls, which is a mistake. And he said that if there is a barrel on the roof, this is what we learned previously, if there's a barrel on the roof that's now it's cracked, it's broken, and the wine is dripping out, he can put a kli underneath it to collect the wine. But now this is the mistake, he said. Well, eventually you have a kli, he can't bring a kli that contains in it more wine than is needed for shalosh sudas. So shmami no kivol hasel dami v'shaper dami. So you see that's a mistake. When he told him that the kli that you have that to collect the wine can't be bigger than, that can't collect more than what's needed for shalosh seudos, and that was an error. That's a mistake, which means you can put a kli to collect the wine even though it's needed more than shalosh seudos. So lamaisa, he's taking that kli, he's going to collect wine, and it has more than shalosh seudos. Now, even though when he puts the kli over there, wine is dripping into that kli, and it's gradually dripping in, and then at the end, he's doing one act of carrying that has more than shalosh seudos, but there was a process of gathering it up, of having all that wine gather into that one kli. We still say that at the end of the day, he's doing one action of taking it out. It doesn't matter if there's more than shalosh seudos. So therefore, similarly over here, the acts of emptying out the other containers into the talis, since at the end of the day there's one act of carrying out that folded up, bundled up talis, it's one act, and it should be muter. So here also it should be muter. So now we mentioned over here, so that's the raya that we want to bring. Now we mentioned over here that when he said that, when Rav Shivza said to Rav Chisda, and he said it's only the kli that he can put under the barrel can only be machzor shalosh seudos, the wine that's needed for shalosh. That's a mistake. How do we know that that's a mistake? Where do we see that that's a mistake? Because it says over there that he can bring a kli to collect the wine dripping from the barrel, but he can't bring another kli. He can't bring another kli to collect the wine, a second kli to collect the wine, to catch the wine in midair. Or he can't bring another kli to put it level with the roof, to have the wine drip over and drip into that other kli that's level to the roof. So what do we see from a kli acher v'yitzarav kli acher hu deloy? It says you can't bring a kli acher. You can't bring another kli. So you can't bring virtually of a kli acher v'yitzarav. You can't bring another kli. Kli acher hu deloy. You can't bring another kli. But if it's that one kli that's put under the barrel, it doesn't matter how big it is. The limitation that it mentions over there is you can't bring a kli acher v'yisarav. But the size of the first kli that's put under the barrel, there's no limitation. So you see that was a toes. So the eagle de vela, and you can bring the eagle de vela, and the Mishnah continues and says, and if they were pikchim, then you make it tells other people, and if they were smart, they'll make a cheshbon with him after Shabbos. So you can tell other people, go ahead and save the food vatzilochem. You can take he's limited to how much food he can take. You can tell other people that save from the fire and take it for yourself. If they were smart, they make a cheshbon after Shabbos. So, for example, cheshbon, my avidity, what kind of cheshbon? This food is hefker. The fire is going to destroy it. So they pick it up. They can keep it. It's theirs. There's like from the hefker. So, what is the pichem that they make a cheshbon? Amar Rav Chisda midas chasidus shanukan. We're talking about midas chasidus. Liftim mishur really make it then it's hefker. They can keep it, and they don't have to pay anything for it. But in midas chasidus, liftim mishur zadin, they compensate the poor person who the fire is destroying his property. Omarava Chasid Agad Shabbos Shakli. You're talking about the Chasidim, as midas Chasidus. Then why would they take anything over here? Why would they take any compensation? Why would they make a cheshbon with the person? It looks like they're getting paid to do work on Shabbos. Now, even though they're not, it's hefker, they can keep the whole thing. But if we're talking about that it's midas chasidus, that the chasidim, they wouldn't take anything. So, Elam Arava, what's the pshat? It's all chab Yerushalayim miskin. We're not talking about chasidim, they're Yerushalayim. V'loi nichalei d'lasanim acher. Now, they don't want to take from other people, to get benefit from other people. But they're also doing all this work, they don't want to do it for nothing. So if they were pichim diyoda to kaigam alav schar Shabbos, so that's just pichim, if they're smart. If they know that really to get paid for their work is not schar Shabbos, then what they do is they make a cheshbon with him after Shabbos. They make a cheshbon, and it means is that they don't want to take that something that's not theirs. So they don't want to do it for nothing. They get paid if they know that this is really not schar Shabbos because he never made up with them that they're going to get paid. If they're smart enough to know the halacha, then they will take it and not take it for themselves, take it for the original owner, but they'll get compensated for their labor. So why does by the food it says, when it says he says go save it for yourself, and over here by the clothing he says save it with me. Omro, they said by the food he says go save for yourself, because he can only take what he needs for mazon shalosh sudas. He can't take more than that. So therefore, the rest of it he can't take. It's yours. He tells the other people it's yours. Take it if you want. But for the clothing, he could take, it's not limited. He was allowed to take a clothing and take more and more than he needs. So therefore, it's helped me take it for myself because he's allowed to take the extra clothing. So therefore, save it with me because he's allowed to keep it. He puts on the clothing, he saves it on the fire, he walks out with it, he removes it, and then he goes back in, puts on other clothing, and then walks out with it and removes it. That's what Rameir says, he can do it the whole day. He says, no, there's a limitation, only 18 clothing items of clothing. And these are the 18 items that he can take out. Maktayer and a cloak, unkle, an overcoat, upunda, a belt, kalbos, shalpish. And he got a vest made out of linen. V'cholok, and he can take out a cholok, a tunic. V'ampolia is a rope. Uma'aforas, a handkerchief around the head. Ushne saparkin, and 2 garters to hold up leggings. Ushne minolim, 2 shoes. Ushne ampolias, and 2 socks. Ushne pargad, and 2 leggings. V'chagar shebemosnov, and a belt around his waist. And we already mentioned the belt before, but that was an outer belt, and this is an inner one around his waist. V'kayva sheberoishan, had on his head. V'sura shebetzavara, and a turban, a scarf around his neck. Zok the Mishnah, a person can spread the skin, the hide of a gedi of a kid, al gabe shirat migdal shachsman esa, or if he had a shirat, a carriage, a trunk, a closet that was caught on fire, he can put the ore of a gedi on it, mipnei shu machar, because it doesn't burn. It's not considered burning it, and therefore it's not considered like he's making a fire. It only singes it, so it's much. The Gemara will explain this in greater detail. But as we'll see from the Mishnah is that he cannot put out a fire on Shabbos. Something which does not directly put out the fire, and there's only a groma to it, is mutter. We'll see in the Gemara the details of that and how that works and what's the lumdus behind it. On a similar vein, the Mishnah says, a person can make a mechitza with kelim, whether they're empty or whether they're full, and use it to block the path of the fire, so that the fire should not pass and then burn other things along the way. But Rav Yossi says if there are new klicheres filled with water, it's also. Why? Because they're not strong enough to withstand the fire. They burst and they split open, and the water pours out and extinguishes the fire. So therefore, it's considered a kibui and it's also. So we'll see in the Gemara discuss the pratim of this din.